Hello, fellow motorcycle enthusiasts, and welcome to the channel. Well, it's that time of year again. You've just put your bike into storage for the winter. So now begins the most difficult period when you wait for spring to arrive so you can get back on that bike. No worries though, there are a few things that you can do to help make the time go by as quickly as possible. It's a great opportunity to address any repairs that have been put off during the riding season. You could start a hobby, like rebuilding an old bike. You could also burn a few hours by watching movies about motorcycles. I've compiled a list of some fairly decent movies here, with a few honorable mentions as well. First, I'll give the specs and a brief synopsis of each movie, then give my thoughts and opinions, and finish off with rating a motorcycle's relevance or pertinence to the movie's storyline. The RPMs gauge is a scale rated from 1 to 10, with 1 being something like a bike making a few brief appearances, to a 10 being something crazy like the entire show filled with nothing but anthropomorphic motorcycles. So, without further ado, let's count them down. Coming in at number 10, The Dirt Bike Kid. Released 1985, runtime 90 minutes, stars Peter Billingsley, rated PG. A young widow gives her preteen son her last $50 to buy groceries. He instead uses the money to buy a sentient dirt bike. The boy and his bike set about righting the wrongs of their town, brought about by the town's ruthless banker. Sometimes the boy is an unwitting accomplice to his bike's exceptionally virtuous nature. It's a bit like a mashup of Jack and the Beanstalk and Herbie the Love Bug. This is a fun movie that I almost enjoyed. I would have absolutely loved it if I had watched it when it was first released. Unfortunately, I think that it was originally meant for a younger demographic, but they decided to shoot themselves in the foot by giving it a PG rating, likely due to some dialogue and actions of the kid's best friend. It's a little campy and slapstick. My primary problem with this movie is the same one that I have with the Herbie movies. I kind of feel like the bike was using him as a stooge. It does what it wants without seemingly ever yielding to his wishes. Unfortunately, that's what happens when you don't watch a kids' movie until you're an adult. Hopefully, I'll get to watch this with my kids someday soon. By the way, I would have been pretty happy if this was my nickname as a kid. On the RPMs gauge, I'm going to rate this a 6. The movie appears to be centered on the kid, but it's really the bike show. Coming in at number 9, Winners Take All. Released 1987, runtime 102 minutes, stars Don Michael Paul, Kathleen York, and Robert Krantz. Rated PG-13. A young man races motocross as a privateer on weekends while working at his family's business during the week. When an old riding buddy who made it big by getting a ride with a new factory supercross team comes back home, the friendship is reignited, but so are old rivalries. A female fellow motocross racer sees potential in the young man and encourages him to race supercross as a privateer under her tutelage. If I had watched this when it first came out, it might still be one of my favorite movies of all time. Instead, I had the misfortune to watch it as an adult and instead found cliches, mediocre acting, and lackluster directing, to name a few issues. The last act goes completely off the rails in some ridiculous attempt to wrap this thing up with some kind of Hollywood hero finish. Lots of great dirt bike footage, though. Apparently, this movie has a bit of a cult following today. On the RPMs gauge, I'll rate this a 7. This movie is about racing bikes on weekends and having fun with them during the week. They are in many scenes and critical to the storyline. Next, at number 8 is Motocrossed. Released 2001, runtime 92 minutes, stars Alana Austin, Trevor O'Brien, and Riley Smith. Rated G. A teenage girl secretly poses as her twin brother to compete in motocross races in his place after he injures his leg. She feels responsible for his injury, and the team can't get a replacement rider in time, so she steps up. This is a movie that the whole family can enjoy. I think that it was a TV movie made for the Disney Channel. Though the plot for this has already been used many times before, this time it's in a motocross setting. I do like that this movie shows that girls can ride bikes too. I would love to see more girls riding bikes. I also like that the family team rides Suzuki RM 125s. Having Travis Pastrana and Jeremy McGrath cameos when they were at the top of their game was pretty sweet too. The younger brother is the scene stealer in this movie. On the RPMs gauge, I'm going to give this a 6. Bikes are central to the story, but you don't get to see a motorcycle as much as you should in a movie about racing motorcycles. Coming in at number 7, Sidewinder 1. Released 1977, runtime 96 minutes, stars Marjo Gortner, Michael Parks, and Susan Howard. Rated PG. A rich industrialist recruits a veteran dirt bike racer to help him prove that he has just created the world's most advanced dirt bike. When said industrialist dies before the project can get off the ground, his sister takes over the company and is keen to sell off all assets. However, the veteran racer has started to see potential in this new bike and decides to convince her to let him lead a team to race the bike in motocross races across the country. I think that it's a shame that this movie has been completely forgotten. I loved it, but I am biased since it is about motocross racing at a time when most everyone was a privateer. Don't get me wrong, you won't find any spectacular acting, directing, writing, or anything else that normally makes a movie great. The only great thing that you'll find here is a great time. If you can get on board with the thin premise, contrived romance, and apparent absence of stuntmen, then you will enjoy this movie. In case you were wondering, there isn't a Sidewinder 2. On the movie tachometer, I'm going to give this an 8. We're on the pipe now, right in the power band. This movie is about the bike, named after the bike, and stars the bike. Next, at number 6 is Supercross. Released 2005, runtime 80 minutes, stars Steve Howie, Mike Vogel, and Sophia Bush. Rated PG-13. Two brothers work at cleaning pools during the week and compete in supermoto racing on the weekend. The older brother gets a ride with a relatively new factory supercross team, while the younger brother gets some financial aid from his girlfriend's father in order to race supercross as a privateer. The brothers race against each other, but still have each other's back when encountering other racers like supposed teammates and track goons. Of all the movies on this list, this one has some of the best motorcycle footage. I would have rated this one higher, but I found it kind of hard to get past all the errors and inconsistencies. If you couldn't tell the difference between a two-stroke or a four-stroke, then it shouldn't bother you at all. It wasn't until I watched this movie that I realized why there aren't many more like it. The director is actually faced with an insurmountable task. Who do you make the movie for? If you make it for the fans of the subject matter, then your technical details need to be perfect or risk being completely torn apart by those fans. If you make it for everyone else, then you risk losing viewer interest by placing them in an environment that they know or care little about. If you don't look at the bikes too closely or pay close attention to the shop talk, then you should enjoy this movie. On the RPMs gauge, I'll rate this an 8. This movie is about racing bikes on weekends and having fun on them during the week. They are in most scenes and critical to the storyline. Coming in at number 5 is Wild Hogs. Released 2007, runtime 100 minutes, stars Tim Allen, John Travolta, Martin Lawrence, and William H. Macy. Rated PG-13. This is a comedy about 4 middle-aged men who have their own exclusive motorcycle club and decide to ride their bikes on a road trip to California. Adversity and hilarity accompany them along the way. This is a very funny and entertaining movie. Any one of the 4 main actors could carry this movie on their own, but together they are greater than the sum of their parts. You also get Ray Liotta as a nice little bonus too. This movie has great rewatchability. On the RPMs gauge, I'll rate this a 7. This movie is about riding bikes and biker culture. They are in many scenes and are critical to the storyline. Next, at number 4 is Easy Rider. Released 1969, runtime 96 minutes, stars Peter Fonda, Dennis Hopper, and Jack Nicholson. Rated R. 2 bikers sell some white powder that they smuggled from Mexico and decide to take their financial windfall east to New Orleans in time to catch the Mardi Gras festival. This is a great movie, though it's a little bit dated. It's probably a decent glimpse into the life of a biker in the 1960s. It can be a little trippy in parts, but that was probably intentional. I feel like Dennis Hopper really wanted the viewer to feel like they were actually experiencing this movie firsthand. I highly recommend this one. On the RPMs gauge, I'm going to rate this one a 7. The bikes get almost as much screen time as the main actors and are fairly important to the storyline. Coming in at number 3, The Motorcycle Diaries. Released 2004, runtime 126 minutes, stars Gael Garcia Bernal and Rodrigo de la Serna. Rated R. Based on the book of the same name, written by Ernesto Che Guevara, which documents his 1952 journey across South America with his friend Alberto Granado on a Norton 500. I enjoy movies that are based on historical events. They are quicker, easier, and more entertaining than reading a book. Even if you didn't know that this movie was based on actual events, you would still really enjoy it. I found it interesting to learn that before Guevara took up arms as a Marxist revolutionary leader, he had studied medicine and eventually became a doctor. This movie shows how his journey changed him to his core. Motorcycles have a way of changing your outlook on life, but in his case, it wasn't as much of a factor as his experiences along the way. On the RPMs gauge, I'll rate this a 5. A little surprising since motorcycle is in the movie title, but it's not super critical to the movie's storyline. You could replace the Norton with something like a Jeep, for example, and essentially still get the same movie. In the number 2 spot, we have The World's Fastest Indian, released 2005, runtime 127 minutes, stars Anthony Hopkins, rated PG-13. Based on the true story of Burt Munro and his attempts to make his 1920 Indian Scout the world's fastest in its class and prove it at the Bonneville Salt Flats in the 1960s. Yet another movie based on historical events. The actual events didn't play out exactly as they were depicted in the movie, however. In typical movie fashion, a few highlights spanning years of Munro's life were condensed into a 2-hour film. Hopkins, of course, does an amazing job portraying the personable Munro. This is one of those movies that seems to make 2 hours disappear in the blink of an eye. A truly enjoyable movie that gives feel-good dialogue throughout, such as this.
Unfortunately, I think your motorcycling days are over.
Like hell they are.
On the RPMs gauge, I'll rate this a 6. A little surprising since the movie title would lead you to believe that it's all about the bike. It's actually more about the man than the machine. The bike actually isn't in all that many scenes, but is critical to the storyline. The movie should probably be rated a 5, but I gave it another point since you get to see Burt wrenching on the bike. There's a 3-way tie for the top spot on this list because I just couldn't decide which one of the 3 that I liked better than the other 2. The first of 3 movies tied for first is The Bike Riders, released 2024, runtime 116 minutes, stars Tom Hardy, Austin Butler, and Jodie Comer, rated R. A fictional story of the Vandals Motorcycle Club, which is based on the real photo book The Bike Riders, which documents the Outlaws Motorcycle Club in the 1960s. This is the third movie on this list that's based on historical events. It's an incredible story, fleshed out by some amazing actors. A truly rare Hollywood gem in which the director actually tells a story simply by letting the actors tell it. Magnifique. Speaking of rare gems, how about Tom Hardy? He's phenomenal. On the RPMs gauge, I'll rate this an 8. This movie is about riding bikes and biker culture. They are in many scenes and they are critical to the storyline. The second of 3 movies tied for top spot is Mad Max, released 1979, runtime 88 minutes, stars Mel Gibson, rated R. A dystopia of the near future fringes on anarchy unless an overworked, understaffed police force can quell the chaos. A motorcycle gang seems undeterred by the efforts of law enforcement and singles out one cop in particular for special treatment. That cop needs to extinguish the threat or perish himself. You've heard of this movie. You've probably even seen it. If you haven't, you really should. It's amazing. This is Mel Gibson's first starring role in a movie. It's an independently produced Australian film that put Gibson on the path to becoming a household name. He might be the star of this movie, but you might secretly find yourself cheering for his buddy Goose instead. On the RPMs gauge, I'm going to give this a 5. This isn't really a biker movie per se. They just happen to be in a lot of scenes, especially since all the antagonists ride them. Lots of great bike stunts here too. And now for the third of 3 movies tied for the top spot. 1 week. Released 2008. Runtime 94 minutes. Stars Joshua Jackson. Not rated. I would guess it may be a PG-13. A young school teacher receives some dramatic news that inspires him to impulsively buy a Norton Commando that he sees on his way home and rides it across the country. This is one of my favorite movies. It checks off a lot of the boxes of what I'm looking for. Great acting, great story, interesting subject matter, not produced by Hollywood, great soundtrack, tasteful cameos, Canadian setting. If the tagline was simply, "Guy rides a Norton across Canada and nothing happens," I would still have watched this. It's so much more than just that, though. The journey is not just a physical thing, it's existential. There is some profound character development and interactions here. Plus, I absolutely love all the Canadiana. If you only watch one movie from this list, I would hope that it's this one. On the RPMs gauge, I'm going to rate this a 6. This movie is less about the bike than it is about what happens after the bike comes to a stop. The bike does have a relevance to the storyline and is in many scenes. Okay, time for some honorable mentions. First up, The Wild One. Not the first movie to feature motorcycles, but close to it. This is the granddaddy of all outlaw biker films. So why didn't it make the list? Well, to be honest, I haven't actually seen it yet. I can't critique or endorse a movie that I haven't seen. I would still really like to see it someday, and you probably should too. It also gave us this classic bit of dialogue.
Hey, Johnny, what are you rebelling against?
What do you got?
Next is Ghost Rider. Nicolas Cage made 2 of these movies, and I don't remember seeing either one. It's a little surprising since I actually enjoyed the comic book as a kid. I hope to someday see the first one at least. Next is Akira. Not only have I seen this movie, but I have it on VHS. It's a good movie and a great anime. You should watch it if you're a fan of the genre, but not for the bikes. I have more than just a passing interest in anime, but even I found this one a little wild. There are some great chase scenes with motorcycles that don't exist, though. And finally, we have On Any Sunday. For anyone who has been yelling those 3 words at their screen since the beginning of this video, you can relax now. Unfortunately, this one didn't make the list because it's not a movie. It's actually a documentary. Sorry. Should you watch it? Absolutely, especially if you're into dirt bikes. This documentary is to dirt bikers what This Is Spinal Tap is to musicians. Almost required viewing. If I ever make a list of motorcycle documentaries that you should watch, this would be at the top of the list. It would also be a fairly short list. So there you have it. That's 15 movies and 1 documentary that will help to get you through the winter months. If you've seen any of these and don't agree with my assessment, please feel free to contribute your opinion in the comments section. I know that there are many more motorcycle-themed movies out there that aren't on this list. If you've seen one of them and think that I should have included it, please state your case in the comments section. Maybe if I get enough suggestions, I'll make a follow-up video. As usual, thanks for watching.